हालो मैं एक सेमिनार पे हूँ।
सेमिनार में है ना, तो बोलना चाहिए।
हाँ, बोलना है।
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for the Economic Times
बोलना है
Digital
अभी टाइम से
Roundtable
मैंने एक
powered by
सेमिनार
Smokescreen.
मुझे 15 मिनट बोलना
The
है।
theme for today's roundtable is Shielding the Insurance Sector in India. I am Dimple Bajwa, your host for the afternoon. The Indian insurance sector, which has been gasping for demand since the last few years, saw business gain momentum, with citizens showing increased interest in innovative products and distribution channels as the country continues its efforts to put the pandemic behind it. With a total of 57 insurance companies, out of which 24 are in the life insurance business and 33 are non life insurers, the Indian insurance sector is estimated to be around $280 billion, covering only 3.74% of the total population. And this sector is set to grow with renewed interest from consumers as companies begin to explore new ways to reach more market segments buoyed by government policies such as the Union Budget 2021 to 22, which propose to liberalize foreign direct investment in Indian insurance companies to 74% from the existing 49%, and 100% FDI being allowed for insurance intermediaries in the previous budget. Digital transformation is one of the key changes that is driving the expedition for new markets and customers for these companies. While these companies innovate and compete to provide services built on digital architectures, they are exposing themselves to new risks and threats as well. Cyber attacks in the insurance sector are growing exponentially as insurance companies migrate towards digital channels in an effort to create tighter customer relationships, offer new products, and expand their share of customers' financial portfolios. This session will help you understand and guide the insurance industry stakeholders to identify challenges and opportunities in securing their data and data networks as they look to innovative ways to not only analyze data, but generate more revenue. Let me now introduce you to our speakers. We have with us today Pavan Chawla, CISO, Future Generali India Life Insurance Company Limited, Naseem Haldar, CISO, ACO General Insurance, Abhishek Bansal, CISO, Max Life Insurance Company Limited, Sahir Hidayatullah, CEO, Smokescreen, Amit Ghodekar, Global Head Cybersecurity, Cover Mall Group. And to moderate the roundtable, we have Prashant Chaudhary, Partner, Africa, India, and Middle East, Financial Services, Cybersecurity, Ernst & Young, LLP. Without further ado, I would now invite Prashant to take it from here. Over to you, Prashant.
Sure, thank you, Dimple, and once again, a warm welcome to all the panelists and all the attendees of the seminar. And looking for, given the gravitas of the panel members which we have, I think it's going to be a very exciting next 1 hour. And just to get the ball rolling, a few observations. If you look at it from an outsider's view on insurance segment, I think 280 billion. That is the projection. I think that's for 2025. We are growing. So normally the insurance growth is 2 to 2.5x of the GDP growth. So we're talking about a high teens growth for the next 5 years at least. And the penetration of insurance had been hardly anything. And if you look at post-COVID, when the entire world has digitized, I think insurance is one of the biggest beneficiary. So I think if you look at the industry as such, there cannot be a better moment for insurance industry to pivot into the new growth paradigm. And to add to that, really proud of the insurance industry, the way at which this industry is able to pivot. There were mergers, acquisitions which were happening during the COVID times. We came out with the most innovative products to cover businesses during COVID times. And now we are seeing that there is micro insurance happening. There is so much of innovation which is coming into this place. And what we're also seeing is there is the part of gold at the end of the rainbow is huge. But insurance industry historically has been always lean. The margins were always under pressure. And if you look at it, insurance as an industry in India was not one of the biggest spender when it came to information technology. But now you're just leapfrogging, let's say, from a 2G to 5G. And with more digitization, of course, you're reducing everybody else's risk. But in the process, I think your own risk is actually significantly transforming. So with that, of course, it becomes a very pertinent discussion to see that, when you are insuring everybody else, how are you insuring yourself when it comes to cyber risk? So I'll just start with this first question, and we'll just start with Abhishek. I mean, that's always the problem when you start alphabetically.
I don't see that as a problem, but
You
please go
must have
ahead.
been used to it in your college viva. So, Abhishek, what do you think has changed in the insurance segment post-COVID, right?
So I think it's an interesting question, and I was kind of highlighting this in the other panel as well. Traditionally, the way, if you recall and see how the insurance industry has been panned out is, the insurance product is something which is sold, in a limited manner through digital channels, and it is more through, the reseller agents, banker channels, all put together, where there is someone who is interacting with life or travel insurance may have a slightly a different point of view in this case, but this was very much evident in case of life insurance, which we have seen, especially with us as well as our peers. Uh, the moment this COVID outbreak came by, right, this pandemic was more of a people disaster. There was an inhibition in people in terms of actually going to the last mile to get either the diagnostics done or actually meeting up with an RA to get a lot of these things in terms of policy benefits or in terms of asking all those queries. It was more driven that either you stay put or stay at a distance, or whether can you serve me digitally. So digitization is one of the key levers which actually, no doubt, there was an initial push as well that to go basically and adopt the e-commerce and digital channel. But pandemic and COVID actually propelled this entire journey and advanced it almost by, if I may say, 3 to 4 years. Right? We heard it saying, no, you must have heard this actually across industries, but this is more pertinent to us because whether you talk about relaxation of norms by even IRDA, whether you talk about tele KYC or a video KYC, how do you actually rethink of some of your underwriting models, and how do you kind of plan for some of those basically products for the customers, whereby can you really do it in a staggered manner for some of these diagnostics, digital recruitment, digital sales, right? I mean, whatever part of the value chain you can think of in the insurance industry was pushed towards the digitization era, right? And as you rightly asked upfront, while we are insuring rest of the world, how are we insuring ourselves? And on one end, it was a push, big time push because of digitization. How are the elements pertaining to, let's say, information security risk, continuity, all baked in when we were, let's say, too agile, in terms of our digital journey and the distributed workforce, which is going to be a new reality in hybrid working models are going to be the new reality for the world post-COVID era. So I just iterated this before also. I mean, no doubt, BFSI companies, including insurance, we had some capacity of the virtual infrastructure baked in because of our inherent nature and the regulatory conservativeness which we have on this industry. However, there was again a leap which we had to make in terms of scaling up that capacity, in terms of thinking of agile way of managing risk, right? Whether can I do a traditional VAPT, or do I really need to bake in something as DevSecOps and do more line security and vulnerability assessments, which can give me more window and time to actually react and I can actually expedite my workloads to be moved to production. So net, it was, I would say, this is a journey which we are still, I mean, it's a road which we're still traversing on, but we have completed a long mile in last but 1 year, in the space. A little long-winded answer, I'm sure. I mean, if this answers your question.
I think that kind of summarizes what we are seeing broadly in the industry. But let me move to the right of my screen, Pawan. Yeah, what's the story at at Future Generali? Is it the same in terms of your business priorities, digitization push post COVID, or is there something different?
Yeah. So Prashant, we are no different from any other life insurance company. I mean, what Abhishek has summarized, I think everything applies to us as well. The good thing is what we have seen is the support which we have got from the regulator and life council, where there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of guidelines, a lot of things which were pushed by them. And till today, if you look at it, the new amendment which has come to the information and cybersecurity guideline in the month of December, they are actually trying to streamline and prioritize certain things which are required to be maintained by the insurers and to be followed by the insurance company to ensure that the data of the customer and the company's reputation does not go on a stake, because the way threats are modeling, the threats are improvising, there are new ways of new vulnerabilities which are coming up. It is very important that we as an insurance company stay at a pace, improvise ourselves, and put controls to mitigate the impact of an attack in case there is any, especially when it comes to the especially when it comes to the resellers or brokers or partners who are associated with you and selling your product. The way you look at it, that the data which gets shared between both the parties involved, the insurer and the broker, it is very important and very prominent to ensure the API integration, the applications which are used are thoroughly checked and should not be vulnerable to any kind of an attack. Similarly, there are many things which has changed the way we work. It used to be always a traditional approach where a physical visit was required, the human interaction was required, which has completely gone digital today. Today, not only insurance, I see the other places as well. It has improvised. You don't need to go to a bank to have your picture submitted or get your picture clicked to open an account. Similarly, in insurance as well, there are many things which have moved on, like Abhishek talked about video KYC and other things. So these are very important, long pending. COVID has, I would say, pushed it to come much in advance than it was projected.
Absolutely, absolutely, Pawan. And I think, uh, COVID accelerated quite a few things, and digitization rush and, innovation definitely. So, moving on, Naseem, just a few questions from
Yeah, sure.
or insights from you. So one is, as we are digitizing, right, there is a lot of new asset infrastructure, cloud, microservices, APIs, we name them, and they're all there. So, with respect to cybersecurity, how do we ensure cybersecurity by design?
Yes. So, actually, you have rightly mentioned cybersecurity or security in design. If you have design level control, it will remove lot of risk, or it should not be removed. I can say it will reduce lot of risk. So as rightly Abhishek and Pravan, discuss a lot of issues. There are certain thing, I would like to, take a step back and then I will answer your question. So first thing, whatever we have discussed in COVID and all these things, right? If you really want to work in this, 5G era, so what I personally feel that it's always better to have a cloud platform, so that you really don't need to care about your BCP, you really don't need to care about your availability. All this risk, virtual is gone. Now, as you are saying that, if we are, implementing or, design level implementation for security controls, the best way to, come out from this monolithic architecture, and if you have, microservices where APIs are connected, you have a gate or you have a push call, or you can able to manage, let's say you will, for certain system you will only allow get, you will not allow push, or there will be certain system you will only allow push call over there, so that nobody can take out data from there, right? So even it's in even, let's say, you need to expose those API to certain partner, as you rightly said, in that starting or initial stage of this discussion, that there are micro influencer going on. So if we take Echo's business, right now the business game has been changed, right? We are playing with the with the numbers in a different way. We don't want to have huge margin from a single policy. What people are trying to do, that let's have a small margin, and the customer number should be very high, so that overall the number will be look similar to us, right? The profit margin will be high. So in that stage, this microservices will be very easy. If you have a microservice in your platform, it will, the BCP, you can run the BCP over a couple of clicks. So you really don't need to, you really don't need to worry about that, load balancing. If you have your API in a push or get call mechanism on that, then your security threat, I can say the external security threat can be, it's already in a better shape. In the same time, if you have some new technologies like JTA and all of them, if this asset is very critical to you, you can protect those application from external access, or this VAPT, traditional VAPT, DevSecOps. We can reduce some level of pressure from those areas.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Naseem. So I'll move on to Amit. So Amit, travel insurance. Mm, so, so I have two questions. One is how was the travel insurance industry broadly impacted because of the COVID? Uh, One, because others actually were having a good time. So I thought I'll just hear from you on that. The second bit is, I think I would imagine there would be so much of cost pressure. I think that might be even more in your industry. So, how are you prioritizing cybersecurity investment and spending, and how do you go about, getting those right approvals for all the consulting engagements, in which you will be engaging? I would believe.
Yeah, very nice. And these are really good questions, Prashant, actually. So our industry, we are specialized in travel insurance, emergency assistance, and medical services. So Covermore is a fully owned subsidiary of Zurich, and Zurich is world's second largest insurance company by size and by turnover. And we are the second largest insurance company in travel insurance segment. So we have a strong presence globally across all the geolocations, right from US, Latin America, Europe, Australia, China, New Zealand, and even for that matter, India. Uh, Now, travel industry is the most affected industry post-COVID, and I don't require to say this in this discussion, because everyone know that the travel is restricted. People are not allowed to travel, and our business was primarily focused on international travel, actually, not on the domestic travel. So majority of our revenue was coming through international business, and that has been severely affected. However, there is a strong management commitment for the business, and we were talking about Abhishek and Pawan actually touched upon digital as a new thing which the insurance organizations are looking out for. Fortunately, our organization was actually doing digital since long, and we are actually pushing digital since many years actually. We have very close tie-up with most of the airliners in the world, and even most of the travel companies in the world, and even for that matter the banks and the big houses as well. So we were actually dealing with providing the specialized travel insurance program for these organizations as well as for the corporate. One of our entities called as World Travel Protection, which is the world's largest organization when it is going to protect the travelers across the world, giving various specialized services like alerting kind of a services like if there is an earthquake, or there is kind of a storm is coming, or there is a bad weather is there. So we are actually protecting the travelers across the world by giving various services. Now, our organization has actually pushed digital in a very hard way since last 2 3 years, and after post COVID, this digital push we have seen in various areas, not only in information technology or even for that matter business. So we are doing a lot of digital, and that has actually helped us big time. One of the major digital push which we are doing is even for that matter of our the claim processes, or customer acquisitions, or the new tie-ups with various entities across the globe. So this digital is providing a lot of benefit to us, and we are actually hoping that this particular digital push will help us to not only to future ourselves at a very larger level, but at the same time it can also leverage our technology platform across the globe, which can actually create more business for us over the coming years. So this is where the management focus is. The second question which you asked about, and that was really a very interesting and good question about how I have to convince my management about cybersecurity priorities and the investment which are required in cyber. And irrespective of whether I am in travel insurance industry or this industry which is facing the major problems, I know that this particular issue is across all the CISOs which we are working about. So everyone is everyone required to convince their management about the spends and the investments and so on and so forth. And it becomes very difficult when you are actually working in the industry which is actually suffering. So for us, actually, we have actually, when the pandemic hit, it was very clear that what kind of investments are required for cyber and data protection. And with the help of management, actually, we actually draw a 3 years long term roadmap for the cybersecurity. This cybersecurity roadmap was actually divided into a strategic plan for the business, and it was divided with short-term goals and long-term achievements which we are looking out for. Now, when we are talking about long-term achievements which we are looking out, we actually did a comprehensive cyber risk assessment across all geolocation in the world, and we prioritize that what is the most important thing which is required at this point of time, probably next 1 year, which required sufficient funding, and what kind of risk we are having if those kind of fundings are not available to us. This was something which was presented till the executive leadership team, and we fortunately we were able to convince the management that these are the risks which are there and we require to take care about the risk. So there was a very micro level work which we did across various geolocation, right from the basic understanding about the security posture till small elements like the vulnerability assessment or penetration testing, or even for that matter, threat intelligence or security operations. So all elements risk assessment was carried out in a very short period of time, and which given a complete visibility to the organization that where we stand at this point of time, and where we have to reach over the period of time, and to achieve those success, what kind of investment is required, and if those investments are not available, then what kind of a risk the organization is carrying. So this was something which was discussed with the management, and based on that, as I mentioned, that we created a 3 years long term plan, that these are the milestones which we are going to achieve over the period of time, and investments are required. So that is something which we did, and it helped us at a great level, because now the executive leadership team have a complete visibility that what cyber is doing, how they are doing, where they were in the past, where they have reached, and where they are going to reach over the period of time, and at the same time what kind of a funding is required. So we don't require to go to management again and again for asking those fundings or budgets.
Okay.
And that really proved a great success to us, and that is how we are marching. And over the period of time, I have this was a good learning period for me as well as an individual, because sometimes challenges give you opportunity to learn, and this is what I can say, that post COVID, joining in a new organization which is badly hit by a pandemic, great learning, that is what I can say you.
No, very well articulated, and I think it's a great approach. And while a lot of us say that we want to have a long-term plan baked into milestones, I think the challenge comes in when the rubber hits the road. But I think what I'm gathering from here, from you, Amit, is you're really marching that 3 year strategic roadmap type of a plan. Great. So, Sahir, coming to you. So, in the business of deception, and I'll have to wipe up my board behind. So, coming back, you see threats and the threat landscape across the world. Uh, I believe you're serving domestic as well as internationally. So, what are you seeing with respect to the emerging threats in a post-COVID world? And also, there was a lot of this talk about the MITRE frameworks. Can you just throw some light on that? Because that seems to be a very intriguing framework, and also it might help us achieve more with less.
Yeah, I think those are good questions, Prashant. What we're seeing is this shift where tactics that used to be more sophisticated are being adopted as mainstream. And there are two drivers to that. The first is that as those tactics become more public, fileless malware, sort of domain fronted command and control channels, internal lateral movement, attacks on Active Directory. Those things become more prevalent. They come out in more reports. More and more attackers start adopting them. So you're seeing that the long tail of attackers, the guys who may not have been so sophisticated, are now operating probably to where, pre-COVID, the, sort of the really more advanced attacks were happening. The second driver to this is obviously crimeware as a market, where you're basically seeing, you've got a serious group that says, okay, I want to break into insurance company X. They're not specifically targeting it. They say, you become my affiliate. Anything I get out of there, if it's ransomware or if it's extortion or whatever I do, I'm going to pay you a fee for it, and I'm going to give you everything on a platter. I'm going to give you the malware on a platter. I'm going to give you the tactics. You just get the access, right? Just go fish some people and go do it. So what that means is the complexity of attacks has increased, but correspondingly, what's not gone up has been the ability to defend. So what we now see is everyone from manufacturing organizations dealing with stuff like, say, fileless malware, right? Where they either don't even have a SOC, they don't have someone with security in the designation, those things. And specific to the insurance vertical, because it's got this unique blend of they have a bunch of money and they have a bunch of PII, they become very sweet spot targets. Plus, the investments in security are typically not as mature as what you would see in large banks, right? It's still not there. And I think the driver for that, Pawan made a really good point about how regulation is catching up. And the thing is, compliance is a great driver. I'm a huge fan of the fact that compliance drives security. But what tends to happen, because when you talk to a board in every other form of risk management, when you talk about compliance, I comply with investor regulations. It's a form of assurance, right? In cybersecurity, compliance is essentially the bare minimum that you need to be doing, right? It's not sufficient to stop something from happening. But when somebody goes to the board and says, and we saw this in banking, right? I comply with the entire RBI framework, right? We passed the audit with flying colors, and two weeks later, you're a Swift hack victim, right? This discrepancy between compliance in the industry to say, hey, at a minimum, you need a firewall, antivirus, and you need some stuff going on, and the board hearing, we comply as we're secure. Huge problem, huge challenge. It means that they typically don't end up giving the necessary budgets. Obviously I have a horse in this race, so on the deception piece, but I'll zoom out of that. You spoke about MITRE Shield. I think the really interesting thing about the overall concept of active defense is the insurance industry is at a crossroads. They haven't yet made all those investments in security that the large banks had. So they have the opportunity to reset the equation. They're walking that journey, right? So they can do what's more appropriate for today rather than just doing what's the advice of day before yesterday. So when you look at something like MITRE Shield, the reason MITRE came up with active defense conceptually was that the previous framework, MITRE ATT&CK, was so focused on offensive security, and it just worked for the big guys. Whereas MITRE Shield and stuff like active defense kind of works for everyone, right? So when I go to customers and I say, hey, look, would you be able to deal with a breach like this? And I'll enumerate something that would have happened in, say, an insurance company, right? I've been doing incident response for probably 20 years now, right? So I'll say, could you catch all this stuff? And they'll say, no. And then I'll say, but you have your PIM, you have this, you have that. And then they're like, no, none of that's going to work to stop that. And that's the whole point, because what you see is the second a breach happens, the second the CISO is dealing with an incident, a serious incident with a human adversary in the network, they're operating in an active defense scenario. Whether they had it before or not, they're doing threat hunting. Whether they had it before or not, they're doing adversary engagement, they're doing incident response. So my sort of submission to this vertical in general is that you have the ability to reset the equation and build defenses for now. Deal with remote workers. Naseem made a really good point about zero trust networks, right? You have the ability to set up your networks around zero trust frameworks, right? Try doing that in HDFC Bank. I mean, they probably have done something, so not specific to HDFC, but you know what I mean, right? So the point is, you have these opportunities that exist, right? The only thing you need to do is get that mind share that, hey, we carry all this risk. Tomorrow, if you wake up and somebody's got into the customer database, encrypted it, stolen it, you're protecting everything from mainframes on one side to we're talking about DevSecOps and cloud and microservices architectures. You guys are operating at the fringe of legacy to the cutting edge, right? So what you're going to need to probably figure out how to do is how to tell your boards that compliance is literally just for the guys at the back of the room, the backbenchers. They need to get compliance done. We're probably going to need a heck of a lot more stuff if we need to, keep the business not just secure. I think this return on security investment is a bad idea. I think it's a cost of doing business. I think it's more important that you're enabling the digital journey, right? Towards what Abhishek had said as well, right? I think that's really crucial. And there's no easy answers here. I think it's really on the independent influence of each chief security officer to be able to speak the business language to the board and then take it down to the tactical at a security level. So that's sort of my submission. But you asked me a simple question, what's happening in the world? What's happening in the world is you're getting guys that used to be called APT28 breaking into your network and locking up your customer data. So the world didn't get better. I joke with many of my CISO friends that I would never want your job because you're basically one breach away from updating your CV on LinkedIn. So it's a hot seat to be in, and it should come with the appropriate power.
Yeah, so very well articulated. There is this theory of war veterans, and normally people who have fought a war are the ones who are thought of being more competent to fight the next war. So, meaning to say that if somebody faces a breach, I would imagine the overall experience actually goes up. So coming to this discussion about the breach, I think this enough number of discussion, and it's now to say that it's a matter of time when we will all get breached. All of us, maybe EY, it's all about to happen, or it might happen, or God knows if it has already happened, and one of us might show up in the newspaper tomorrow. But what we are seeing is in the past when somebody get breached, it was like quite shocking and jarring. I think it still has a shock value, but now the fact is that the one on your left and the one on your right has already gotten breached, so there is some more appetite, or I wouldn't say appetite, there is more acceptance to or empathy with in the market, in the stakeholders, in the management, that breaches, they happen, we cannot have absolute cybersecurity. So the question is, in insurance industry, is this mindset changing of the board, that are we playing for a zero incident, or are we okay with certain amount of breaches? One. The second thing is, when I speak to some other senior leadership, the perception which we get is, because the management is more open to breach, they're saying, fine, we are ready to face with the breach, but not go full throttle on the cyber investment. So I know it's a complex question. So Abhishek, what's your steer on this?
And I mean, it's not simple and it's not a straight question too. So what I would say is, no doubt, tech risk in general is now accepted as one of the top risk areas. And in fact, when we say it has become a boardroom agenda, even members of the board are really wary of this risk, and they typically now have started asking questions that what are we doing about it, right? But when it comes to acceptance of incident, I don't think so. I mean that's what we are here for. I mean, nobody can say, fine, if X amount of incidents come by, I'm okay with it, right? So the expectation, if I can kind of connote it in form of, let's say, maybe a compass, right? The expectation is not about zero incidents or I'm good with incidents, right? It's somewhere that fine, this is a new reality. We understand. We have seen basically peers in the industry getting hacked or breached. So what we can do about it, right? And when you say that, again, the question was tilted towards investment, whether I can go full throttle in terms of big bang investments, asking for, let's say, maybe state-of-art solutions. The answer is no there as well, right? You need to balance it out. You need to see which battles you need to fight, and really peg them in order, right? These are my top risk even in cyber, and what do I need to do about it? And since we are all into insurance, we do take a lot of these, all even guided by IRDA and otherwise. While I completely uh, go with what Sahir's point of view was. It is no longer basically only a compliance mandate. The management is getting towards that. Fine. I mean, just like you say about good security also means good business, and no, we can actually maybe go ahead sometime like Apple and market around like no, they market privacy for their mobile phones. That no, we take good care of your no personal data, and hence no, we become basically a more sought after insurance company. But said that, I mean, we need to choose our battles, like where do we want to go about, and you would see acceptance in lot many forms, right? Maybe in terms of taking cyber insurance as a product, right? Because insurance companies do understand insurance very well. So whether can we hedge some of our risk using cyber insurance as a product, right? Vis-a-vis also investing certain things which are basic in hygiene, right? So tech investments also would qualify whether something is hygiene or something is cutting edge. I think till date, the point of view which I have seen, and I'm speaking not only on behalf of Max Life, but more so on behalf of community who I interact with quite often, it is definitely hygiene is something which everybody expects, and it is already there. And in fact they are trying to move above. But when it comes to cutting edge, right, it is still thought through as maybe okay, advanced and no, let's say large banks, maybe certain governmental agencies, but it's not required for insurance. So I think we are somewhere in between, but with maybe tightening of regulatory mandates, with more and more breaches, if I may say, this needle is moving towards basically I mean there is a skewness still, but it is still moving towards, yes, we need to invest a bit more in this area. This area you need to make really know that hackers fatigue a little high, so that no right amount of investments need to be there, but it's still not full throttle big bang go ahead and buy any solution which is cutting edge and no the day one market.
Yeah. Yeah, and I echo that. That's my feel as well. That we are somewhere in between, and I believe that's a good space to be in, given where the overall maturity of the industry and how we are progressing. So, Pawan, moving to you, just one question. So, we see a lot of breaches which keep happening, and sometimes some organizations are able to manage the post-breach market reaction very well. I'll cite JP Morgan, right? I think 2014 when they were breached, and it was quite a breach, but it was very well managed. Whereas there are many other breaches which we are aware, they hit the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Stock takes are tanking. So, what would be your steer in terms of some of the best practices for incident response in a post-breach scenario in terms of the reactions from the CISOs, reactions from the top leadership?
Uh, no, it's a very tricky question. uh, See, first of all, it needs to be understand. So today, let me start from this. Cyber breaches are there, and it is going to happen. If you have not been breached, you can consider yourself lucky. The way it has been enhancing, it has been moving, it has been.
Lucky or ignorant.
No,
Yeah,
I would not say ignorant, because if you
or
are
you
ignorant, then you will be in the news very soon.
you
Because
need
you
to
can be
agree about
ignorant
it.
once, not every time.
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah.
so the understanding of a breach is there at the board level now. It is no more a thing of to be discussed on a table with IT, or need to be brought to a certain extent. When I say a certain extent, it sometimes stays to the management, but now it has gone up to the board level. So everything, whatever we are doing, is they are aware of. They know that what action need to be taken, and positively, what we are seeing as a change, at least what I have seen in the last 3-4 years, is board has never said no to anything. If it is prominent, it is relevant, it is required by the organization, definitely there is a go ahead from the board, from the management and the board level, to proceed with the solution. Now, coming back to your question, when the breaches happen, so there has to be a concise policy which defines that what action need to be taken. If it is there is a concise policy, and you have a cyber crisis management team, GCMT we call it, to take care of action, and you have a playbook which talks about what action to be taken at what stage, you there are you will be able to manage the breaches very efficiently. The other aspect which I look at it is when the breach happens, obviously uh, people try to pretend it, not to share the information. It may have its repercussion and all. I would say that being in the industry, it is like a disease, right? When it happens to somebody, they take a medicine and they suggest a medicine to somebody else as well. That these are the precautions you should take, and this medicine. Similarly, in COVID, what we are doing, we have got a mandate that cover your face, don't talk, keep a distance of 6 feet, and all. Such guidelines or such suggestions should come out proactively by the organizations as well, to a certain extent, whatever they can share and whatever they cannot, so that others can learn from it and take a proactive action there, rather than getting impacted and then realizing that it had happened in the other organization as well, which may or may not have become public. Uh, the learning from that has to be shared and with the colleagues and peers in the industry, and to be taken care accordingly. Prashant,
Yeah.
that would be my take.
Yeah, thank you. I think a very straightforward answer, Pawan, to a slightly tricky question, and I appreciate your perspective on it. Nasim, you had a point to add.
No, I know both of them actually, so it's completely fine, whatever Prabhan is saying, but there are certain things, as on date when, let's say if you consider the only insurance industry, let's say your organization is selling some health policy, right? Wherever you are going to sell any health policy, as on date, the clients, the customer are also very much concerned. They always ask you, hey, I'm going to share a lot of PI data with you or my employees' data. What kind of protection you are having? So we are also talking about, let's say that API design level, security level design on all these things, right? So they are also asking. There are few cases I have seen, people are asking, hey, can you you are going to ask me to integrate with this API with my HRMS system, so that the insurance will be automatically managed. So can you please share me that the security test report of your API? So people are asking in this level of requirement is there. There are few player in the market, and I believe that's a good approach, or it's I believe it will set a baseline for us if we start doing all this thing at our design level. So we can avoid lot of a lot of manual work, and in the same time we can also avoid a lot of risk.
Yeah, agreed. And security by design. I think that seems to be a good mantra, and your mantra, Nasim. So one more follow-on question, Nasim, for you.
Yeah.
There is a lot of this thinking in terms of this spend fatigue when it comes to cyber. CISOs are like my younger son Arjun, who wants a new toy every second day and never satiated, never happy. So how do we deal with this in terms of doing more with less? Is the answer for every problem SASE, SD-WAN, and another new toy somebody comes out with, or can we go back to fundamentals, or is it so? So what's your steer on that?
Okay, let me answer this question with a disclaimer that whatever I'm going to tell you, it's about my own things, or I can say it's my own thoughts. There is nothing related to echo. So I think before this COVID happened, I'm the person who started in career in complete in cloud security, cloud platform. In this era I have started my career, right? So a lot of time I face this kind of question: hey, why you want to increase the OpEx? Lot of, right, you are increasing the OpEx. If we invest one time, this CapEx will be there, but you will get a lot of benefit. You will have the privacy, you can control, you have a physical access, you can do a lot of things. Believe me, Prashant, when this COVID happened, the complete perception what I have answered for last 2 years, that let's move, let's do everything on cloud. I will not have a single just for information, I am not having a single AD in my own premises. Also I have everything on cloud, and I'm managing everything over cloud only. So I really don't require that my user should save any data over a office utility software like MS or Excel. You want to do it over cloud. I really don't mind, so that I can avoid a lot of risk. And might be there is some OpEx will be there, But once you will present such kind of confidence to your board of directors, or I can say to your investor as well, right? Because as on date, investors are very much concerned about how exactly you are going to manage your reputation over the market, right? So those days in cyber security, I think it's booming now. I really don't know before 2 years ago or 3 years ago, how much this investor are also concerned that what are the initiative you have taken to mitigate your tech risk or cyber security risk. But nowadays they have a very clear checklist, what are the initiative you are taking, how exactly you are managing. Compliance is fine, compliance is a baseline, I can say, right? You have to reach that one to run your ops, right? But you have to continuously improving. And if you are in digital era, you are as we are talking about digital age in insurance domain, then you have to think in that way, right? You have to think in that new way how you can mitigate. So not only mitigate, I believe it's always better if you can avoid. So mitigate is the second option for me. I always try to avoid if possible. So
Agreed. Hmm.
yeah, so that that is the, I think that is the approach I have taken,
Hmm.
to do more with less, actually. If you can, without having anything, is people is not seeing, right, anything to in your data center, right? Hey, I have nothing. So you can present it that way also.
Yeah, and we take it that with the caveat that that's your approach, and it's not really representative of ACO. Uh, thank you. Alicia, when you're publishing it in the newspaper tomorrow, just add that in. Moving on to Amit. Amit, what's your steer on this? Doing more with less when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, is it possible, or we have not yet reached that stage?
I don't think so. There is any concept like doing more with the less. Actually, frankly speaking, because we are living in a cyber world. We are not a software developers, or we are not IT infrastructure guys. We are in security, and security is always the priority of any organization. So there are only three things which any security professional has to look at. One is that, do you want to become a laggard, or do you want to become an early adopter, or do you want to become the leader? Okay, these are the only things which I see. And you mentioned about, Prashant, that every CISO or many CISOs ask for a new toy every day. So it is our responsibility to ask from the organization, because as I say that we are in a security profession, and security is the utmost important thing for any organization, be it insurance, be it a bank, or be any another organization, because we know that the cyber criminals are way ahead to us. They are every day they are doing a sophisticated attacks on the organization. And if you wanted to protect your organization, the regular approach of just having a compliance, that is not going to suffice. Okay,
Hmm.
because uh, those days has gone. It's been long time for any CISO in the world. I can say that compliance is just a thing which is just a mark. Okay, there is nothing more than that. And time has come that like every organization think that how we can actually shift ourselves from laggards to early adapters to the leaders. Okay, and over the period of time, many matured organizations uh, which are there in this space, they will definitely they will definitely ask their security professional that where we stand right now, are we laggards or are we leaders? Okay, and if you wanted to give the answer that yes, we are leaders, then you have to actually approach your board, your executive leadership team, or the senior management to show the clear visibility of your cybersecurity posture, that where do you stand. And if you wanted to become the leader, then what kind of things you expect from the management. Because it is very simple answer to this question, that when we actually ask for any new tech or any new system from the security point of view, it is as good as it is going to be used for the organization benefit and to protect the organization. And if you have a clear visibility that where do you stand at this point of time and what is the risk which your organization is having, because this is not in place, it is very easy to convince the management. It is not a very difficult job. Having said that, there is another clause to it, and which I can say that as I mentioned earlier, that cyber crime, like the kind of attacks, the kind of crime which is increasing, Many leaders at the top, they are aware about this risk. I have seen a CRO asking a question to a cybersecurity expert that if my organization is getting impacted by a ransomware, what kind of a protection you have? So a CRO is asking a question about ransomware attacks. A CRO is asking a question about what kind of email security solution you are having in a place. So the top management is having a very good understanding about cyber risk. They are aware about the attacks which are happening in the industry, and they are also aware about the risk the organization is having if those attacks are not taken care. Now it is the responsibility of the cybersecurity professional to convince the management and to show them where we stand and what is expected from the management. So as you ask about, is it possible from less having like getting more into less, it's practically those things, those days are gone actually, frankly speaking.
Yeah, very interesting and divergent views from Naseem and Amit. I mean, my best practice was if I want an antivirus, I will ask for a XDR. My CEO will at least fund a open source antivirus.
No, no. Then that is a that's the question I told you, right. I just want to give you one example. Let's say if you need an antivirus, then you should have a platform like Mac, Windows. Let's say I'm having a Google Chromebook. I can avoid that virus. There is no known virus over that platform. So I want to think in a different way so that I really don't need to care about all these things. Let's have all these things in a different way. If possible, try what the best approach of what I believe. If possible, let's try to avoid it.
Yeah.
If not possible, then there will be certain cases you cannot have one principle to solve all these corporate issues.
Yeah, very interesting point of view, both Amit and Naseem. Sincerely appreciate. And so Sahir, what's your steer? You and I come from consulting and product world. What's our thinking? I mean, is it possible to do more with less? And I believe we were talking about that EDR spend, how that can be balanced.
Yeah. So to start with, I'll say don't let Amit train your son on how to sell you on buying new toys because he'll probably, bankrupt you pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
I was listening in. I thought it was very interesting. See, the security industry on one side has trained us to think that there are no silver bullets, which means we need new things all the time, right? We even call it defense in depth. It's a wonderful thing we vendors have done to you to sell you something new every year, right? You bought a flat screen TV, now you've got an LED TV, now you've got a 3D TV, now you've got a curved TV, right? But jokes aside, I think the definition of less, Prashant, is really important. See, there's less in terms of multiple dimensions. There's less in terms of money, right? Which is, I think, what is it comes to people's mind immediately. There's less in terms of time. There's less in terms of effort, right? So when Naseem talks about giving his organization Chromebooks, right? It may not necessarily be less in terms of cost. Maybe it might even be more expensive. I don't know how much Chromebook costs, but just hypothetically, right? But it might be less in terms of effort and time for him to secure those people, right? So I think that's a very viable trade-off, right? You and I were riffing about that EDR stuff, right? So I hear a lot of people saying, okay, adopt EDR, adopt XDR. I mean, all very good technologies, right? I can give some examples. So essentially, one of the things that we do, right, disclaimer that I'm pitching myself here, is that we try to trade off for all three: cost, complexity, and time, right? So what we tell a customer is, okay, fine. If you need to protect an estate of 10,000 endpoints, you can either go buy EDR so and so, and that's going to cost you $12 to $15 an endpoint. That's going to cost you a lot of money. After that, you're going to have to roll out agents everywhere and manage them. That's going to take a lot of effort, right? And finally, it's going to take you a long time, right? So we'll say, okay, fine. Instead of that, we'll identify 1,000 really crucial endpoints in your environment. Maybe your IT guys, your ring fencing, your senior management, etc. Based on business risk, we'll protect those much faster. We'll do it with, in our case, we do it with deception, right? But it's a more business risk management approach. And I've saved one CISO about 175K a year, where he wanted to get all his NetFlow data from cloud into his SIM. So the QRadar guys were extremely happy because they charge you, I don't know if it's on EPS or whatever, right? But they were going to charge him a bomb for all that traffic telemetry coming in. We said, look, honeypots for lateral movement, decoys for lateral movement, try doing that instead. Saved them a bunch of money there. Same with the EDR use case. A third example, which actually came from the insurance industry, was they have very limited teams. So either the SOC is internal, very limited, or it's hybrid, or it's completely outsourced, right? But either way, you need somebody when an alert comes in, you need somebody to look at priority alerts. So what we did is we used deception to say low false positives, cut down the volume of high priority alerts the internal team needs to deal with by 60% in a month, right? Now that has a huge impact because when we'd analyzed what their security operations team was doing, they had a hybrid model, right? We found that the internal guys were spending about an hour and a half a day on false alerts that were just tossed over by the SOC vendor, right? So SOC vendor said, hey, some antivirus alert, some firewall alert, some IDS alert, here, go look at it. And then when you cut that back, what did we save them? We didn't save them money. They paid us, money for doing what we do, but we saved them time and we saved them a bunch on complexity. So I think this is a very nuanced conversation when we talk about, do more with less. It's a very interesting concept because depending on your organization's comfort, you may be ready to spend more money to save yourself a bunch of other stuff so that you can do useful stuff that net makes you more money, right? So you're spending time on your business, your core business stuff, rather than doing a bunch of rubbish stuff that you never should. This is the same argument I used to convince my wife to buy a robotic vacuum cleaner when the pandemic happened. So I did the cost benefit analysis versus the buy, and the economics were not good, but I tried to sell that. So I'm trying to sell you the same basic concept, that it's about convenience sometimes. It's not necessarily just about cost.
Yeah. I mean, device also have a third option, which is the manual option, but we can discuss that offline. Okay, so one rapid fire question. There are so many good questions which are coming from the audience. Unfortunately, we are up with time. But what I'll do is I'll compile these questions and I'll try to see if I can get offline responses from you. But just one rapid fire question from each one of you. That there's so many people wanting to enter and make a good career in cyber. And I think all of you are who's who of the industry. You have made a fantastic career, and I'm sure you'll go places. So, what's the advice you will give to people who are entering or who have entered the field and they want to make a stellar career like yours in cyber? Abhishek?
I think one piece of advice would be thorough in your domain. Like, I mean, cyber by itself is very, very vast. By itself, you can actually divide it into multiple subdomains. Pick and choose one and be a thorough expert. This is a niche area. The more we are growing towards, in next 5 to 10 years, you will see majority of the general stuff being either commoditized or automated. So unless and until you develop niche skills, whether it is AppSec, whether it is IAM, whether it is pick up any of those areas, right? And there are enough basically roles which are there as part of National Skills Council. You have set of roles which can actually give you a guidance, like which role you can pick up, how you can choose your career. These days, I think the new gen is not very short of any know-how. They can really do a Google or a LinkedIn to see what career path they can take. But I think my short advice would be pick up any domain of your choice and be an expert. Go as deep and as niche as possible.
Perfect. Amit?
Yeah. This particular if you really wanted to do a career in cybersecurity, I wanted to give you an answer from my own. Actually, cybersecurity career is something which is coming from a passion and not from like in the other domains. Like if you wanted to become a software developer, you are doing your engineering graduation, and then over the period of time, someone else has become a software developer, so you can become a software developer. But that is not the case in cybersecurity career. Actually, cybersecurity career is all about passion. Do you really do cybersecurity really interest you? Do you have that analytical ability to do a research and getting your fundamentals strong, and as Abhishek mentioned about going into deep. So if do you really have that kind of ability to do? And second is that it is all about the kind of a criminal kind of a stuff. Are you going to become the police, or are you going to become the thief? Okay, so are you going to become that side of the world and going to try to become a police? Now if you wanted to become a police officer, then you know that what kind of a stuff is required. You have to do that investigation of a crime which has happened, or you have to give advice that how this crime cannot happen. And that is exactly the cybercrime, cybersecurity professionals are doing. And it is all about passion. So that's why if you can see, like over the period of time, the gap between the requirement of a cybersecurity professional and the cybersecurity professional which are there in the market, that is widening day by day. And it is not actually, that is not stopping actually, despite of many institutions are coming up with, a lot of courses and, trainings and all those things. Still that gap is not getting, matched actually. It is getting wider and wider.
Right.
And the reason being that because the young fellows have understood that it is all about passion, and it will start from that, building the passion for career in the cybersecurity. If you really build that passion within yourself, that I wanted to become a successful cybersecurity professional, then it will automatically happen. But if you are just going that some of my friend is doing a career in application security assessment and I will also do that, it may not happen actually. You may be a good application security testing engineer, but maybe you will not become the good cybersecurity professional. So I will only, suggest the young fellows who wanted to come into this field. I will just tell them that, create that passion to become a cybersecurity professional, and that will actually, take you long in your career. And that is what is the expectation from many of the CISOs as well in the industry.
Yeah. So Abhishek said breadth, Amit said passion. Pavan, what would be yours here? That will just wrap it up with Naseem and
Yeah.
Sahir. We'll just take a minute for conscious of time.
Very short answer. If you love breaking things, you are in the right field, and the cybersecurity is the field for you, because cybersecurity is all about breaking and then giving a solution of fixing that out. You need to love technology. You need to have a, like Amit said, passion. I'll continue to use the word passion towards the technology, and eagerness to break things up.
Yeah.
Prashant, that will be my take. I mean,
Your thing.
if you
And
know how to break things, you are in the right field.
Naseem?
Yeah, additional to Pawan, just one example people can try. Just try to, bypass your college firewall, whatever not allowed to use, try to use those things. And, after that, just report it to that, concerned team. Looks like a bug boundary. If you just, वो हिंदी पे बोलते हैं ना, अगर शेर पे मुंह पे एक बार खून लग जाता है and something like that, right? So you will be expert in this field. That's all. Even if I take my reference, I have done all these things, and then I came into this domain, right? So that
Yeah,
that will
and
be
I'm sure that comes with a lot of caveats. So to wrap it up, Sahir, what do you have to say?
Don't focus on certifications. They don't mean anything. They're just virtue signaling to the rest of the world. And the people will take your money and tell you that you're certified X, Y, and Z. You're certified nothing till you've done like 10, 15 years in this industry. So don't focus on certs. I think everybody else said get hands on, get dirty, become the thief. Because if you've not been the thief, you can never catch the thief essentially.
All right, excellent, and very interesting divergent views. So once again, just I'm looking at the clock, how time just went by. It was one of the quickest 1 hour. So a big thank you to each one of you, and also to Alisha and the Times Group for organizing this. Uh, I'll hand it over to Dimple without much ado.
Well, that was a very interesting and insightful session. And thank you so much, Prashant, for moderating the roundtable. We will now end this session, which has undoubtedly been very engaging and perspective. And I'm sure our participants would have got some rewarding insights today. I thank all the panelists for sharing the knowledge with us. I thank the audience as well for being with us during the Economic Times Digital Roundtable on Shielding the Insurance Sector in India, powered by Smokescreen. This is Dimple Bajwa signing off. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody.